What's up everybody, 40 the Broadway Saiyan here, and welcome back again to my YouTube channel, bringing you guys another video on Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. In today's video, we're going to be touching up on the topic of launch team compositions and how to effectively utilize them for some of the upcoming Lufenia content in Global Opera Omnia. But before we talk about that, if you guys are brand new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell. That way you guys are not missing out on future uploads. And if you guys enjoy what you see on this channel, be sure to hit that like button and share this video, as it does help me out. I also want to give a special thanks and shout outs to fellow DFFOO content creator VL, because VL helped me with the information on this video that I'll be presenting. Be sure to check out his YouTube channel. I'll be leaving the link in the video description as well as the pinned comments. So launch compositions are definitely a very, very powerful team comp that, as we've seen from Global Opera Omnia and JP Opera Omnia, can tackle some of the more difficult fights because of their very high efficient damage output from a single turn. Not only do they have very high efficient damage output coming from a single turn, but they are also able to raise Lufenia orbs without necessarily playing by the Lufenia orb rules. They also have strong turn manipulation with turn order swapping and delay, and then there are also massive brave refunds after the damage is dealt, depending on the party team composition. So what characters do you want to use in the Lufenia era for the launch comp? So I'm going to divide them into three roles. We have primary damage dealer, we have your support, and then we have your damage enabler. So for your primary damage dealer, I came up with three choices. Now, I know that JP has Sid Reigns right now, who recently just came out, and Sid Reigns is just on a whole nother level when it comes to launching, so I am not going to be including him on this list because he is a very recent character in JP, and Global is not going to be seeing him for a while. But for primary damage dealer, the first choice is going to be Cloud. You're going to want his LD and BT for this. He has a very high damage output. He also has awesome offensive utility. As we know, Cloud can auto-launch, he can delay, he can paralyze, he can also dispel buffs if you have his World of Illusions 15 CP passive. He also has high longevity with his free skill uses, because right after he uses his LD skill, he's going to have free skill usage on his C65, his skill 1, and his skill 2, and he also has a high crit rate. And in the burst phase, you can actually amass a ridiculous amount of damage if you set it up properly with all the constant launching that Cloud can do. So Cloud is going to be number one for me for primary damage dealer. Another fantastic damage dealer that Global will be seeing later on is going to be Lael. Lael with BT and LD has high damage output. He has the ability to constantly produce launches. He can delay, he can battery his allies, he can also allow all party members to take part of the launch regardless of the turn order, and this effect is coming from his LD, and then afterwards he also makes launching easier for the rest of the party. And then the final choice for primary damage dealer is Dark Knight Cecil with his LD. Dark Knight Cecil actually has high damage output as well. He has instant turn rate with his LD, he has Dark Imperil, and he also has that 20% HP damage up. He can also battery his allies when he initiates the launch with his skill 2. He has the delay coming from his LD, and then he also has longevity, because after he uses his EX, he does recover a skill usage. So Dark Knight Cecil is going to be my third choice for your primary damage dealer for the launch team composition. Now we're going to go ahead and move forward to the support role for your launch team composition. The first one that I'm going to be mentioning is going to be Kais. This should come as to no surprise. Kais really made an impact when he first came out, and then later on in Global Opera Omnia, when he gets his LD, Kais will give you turn manipulation, because his skill 2 allows you to put his turn right after the character that is going to be initiating the launch. He also has those batteries with his either his Brave attack or his HP attack command during the launch. He enables frequent launches because he allows that character that he's going to be placing his turn after to initiate the launch. He has great battery. He also has awesome Brave Refund with his LD. The Brave Refund with his LD, what happens is that after you guys deal damage during the launch sequence, a portion of that damage is going to be converted to your party's Brave. So then you guys will have Brave to do more launch damage with. And then afterwards, he also delays with his EX. And then he has longevity with his skill recovery coming from his C65. So Kais, as far as support for the launch team composition, is going to be my number one pick. My next one is going to be Lael with LD. For this one, Lael does not necessarily need to have the burst, but he also, again, enables launches to trigger more easily. He batteries, he delays, he allows party members to join the launch regardless of turn order, and he also has turn manipulation, which comes from his LD, because after he uses his LD, he allows you to choose which character gets to take their turn next. Next support is going to be Ramza. Ramza, he can function as support for a launch comp with just LD. You don't necessarily need the burst, but he could launch with his LD. He has battery with various skills. He has a powerful debuff coming from his EX. He also has delay. He has insta break, and he also has healing in the event that you actually do need to heal. While he's not an optimum choice for healing, he is providing that if you do take him into your launch comp. The next character for support for your launch comp is going to be Kryl with LD. I did touch up on this during my Kryl video, but she provides you good battery. She provides you enchant and imperil when your damage is resisted. And then she also provides paralysis with the triggered trap from her LD. And then she has that really cool brave heal effect with her EX. And the way you can set that up is, for example, before you initiate Cloud's burst phase or even Lael's burst phase, you can make sure to have that EX ability up. So then that way you're benefiting from the brave heal that you're getting from it that happens every turn. And then afterwards, to round off the support, we have Fujin, who is going to be getting her LD later on in Global Opera Omnia. She also provides enchant and imperil when your damage is resisted. She launches with her EX. She brave heals to her allies when they're dealing weakness damage, and she also has delay. The final role for your launch team compositions is going to be your damage enablers. Now, I only have 2 for this one. However, for those of you that play JP, if you guys have any other suggestions for damage enablers, let me know in the comment section below. But my first choice for a damage enabler for a launch comp is going to be Dark Knight Cecil with his LD. Again, he can also initiate the launch himself. He batteries his allies after he initiates the launch. He has that 20% HP damage up, Dark Imperil, and he has delay. And then finally, the other damage enabler that I recommend for your launch team compositions is going to be Kurosame with his LD. 30% damage up. You can't go wrong with that. He also increases the party's offense with his buffs. And then he has that speed down effect from his debuff, which will slow the enemy turns down, meaning that they won't be able to act nearly as often. Now, as far as a recommended friend unit, if you guys have anyone that you want to add to this one, let me know in the comment section below too. But for me, from using launch team compositions on both Global and JP from the Lufenia era, I actually think Ramza is going to be your best choice, and Ramza with LD and BT. The reason why your friend Ramza unit wants the BT is because those are massive regens that you're going to be getting from that BT effect. And then also remember, he increases your offense, and he can also launch and delay with his LD. So that friend Ramza unit provides powerful regen effects, provides offensive increase to your entire party, and he also can launch and delay. Recommended summon, it's a no-brainer, guys. You're gonna want Pandemonium for this because he's the summon who increases your damage dealt during a launch. So that's going to be the summon you want to take for your launch composition. And then recommended calls. So I have 4 listed on here, but if you guys have any suggestions on which ones you think might also work, let me know in the comment section below. But for your recommended calls, the first one is going to be Jack LD. Very, very powerful debuff. 30% brave damage up and 50% defense down is just insane. The next one is Onion Knight LD, which Global Opera Omnia will be seeing soon. Onion Knight LD allows turn manipulation and gives free skill uses to your party, which can be great. Kryl LD, in case you need enchant and imperil. She has the paralysis. She also increases your stolen and gain brave overflow, and she increases your attack. And then afterwards, later on, Fujin LD also provides enchant and imperil and increases stolen and gain brave overflow and increased attack. So as powerful as the launch composition is, I do want to bring your guys' attention on fights where the launch team composition may or just will not work whatsoever. So the first one is if the boss is immune to launch, well, that just kills your whole strategy there, because if you can't launch him, you can't take advantage of the massive amount of damage you could deal in just one turn. If they are immune to delay, this will also, in my opinion, kill your launch comp, because launch comps have very little healing, and you generally don't want to use calls where you have to be healing your entire launch comp, because the calls that you want to use for your launch comp is something that can enable you to deal more damage and increase the amount of damage that you do. So if you're being forced to use healing in your calls, it's not really going to work. Ramza is, as a support, can heal you, but again, if they're immune to delay, you're pretty much not going to be able to take this team composition, because with a launch comp, another strength of it is being able to keep the enemy from taking their turns as much as possible. And then the other fights that won't work with a launch comp or might give you some difficulty is if they have immunity or resistance to 2 or more of your brave damage. So for example, there will be fights where, you know, range and melee damage will be resisted. Now, you can use the enchant and imperil calls such as Kryl or Fujin. However, later on, you want to keep in mind that there will be stages where those elements are, bosses can actually absorb them. Other fights where the launch team composition might struggle with is going to be orb conditions that require a specific element. Again, this can still be possibly done if you bring those specific calls such as Kryl and Fujin, so then that way your damage output should be, can still be pretty high enough to race the orb. A fight example of this that Global Opera Omnia will be seeing later on is during 9's Lost Chapter Lufenia. You can actually bring the Fujin call, so then that way you have the wind element to be able to deal with the orb condition. Other fights where the launch team composition may struggle is orb conditions, where none of your party members can interact with it. It's another tricky situation, but you know what? It is possible. The fight that you're actually seeing right now for this video is during the Trey Lost Chapters Lufenia. As you could see, the party comp that I'm bringing does not have any way to deal with the orb, but I actually used this exact team to be able to defeat this Lufenia, and it worked like a charm. But you just want to keep in mind that, if your party members cannot interact with the orb, that may be a detriment to your launch comp. Another fight or specific fights where your launch team composition can really struggle is bosses that can counterattack either 1 or more of your brave type damage. An example for this is during Act 3, Chapter 2, Part 1, the Humbubba boss counterattacks melee and range brave damage. So if you bring your launch comp with Cloud and all that, you're going to keep getting counterattacked, which will disrupt your launch comp composition. And then afterwards, when we get Transcendence 4, in Global Opera Omnia, the right gate actually counters melee brave damage. Fights where you have to let the boss act is another one where your launch team composition is just not going to be able to work. An example for this is an older Lufenia, but the Kirin Lost Chapter Lufenia, because where the boss puts on that red aura, which forces your characters to only do 1 brave damage until the boss acts. That one is really going to kill your launch team composition's damage. So that's going to be an example of like a specific fight where your launch team composition just will not work. And then the last type of fight that you want to keep in mind where your launch team may not be able to conquer it is fights that need you to break the boss, otherwise you're only doing 1 brave damage. Is this another tricky one? It is still possible, but you do have to strategize your calls properly, so maybe using like a Mid-Italian call or Kaya's call, or even later on when Gabranth gets his LD Gabranth call may be able to help with this. But it is another type of a fight where if you're going to be trying to take this powerful launch team composition, you may have a hard time being able to tackle it. But all in all, guys, the launch team composition is a very, very powerful team. Very efficient, high damage output, great turn manipulation, great brave refund, and overall just a fun party to use in order to conquer some of these Lufenia fights where you don't necessarily need to mess with the orb. You could just damage race it and just be done with it just like that. Alright guys, well hopefully this video helps you guys out in setting up your launch team compositions for these upcoming hard Lufenia fights. Thank you again to VL for helping me compile this information together. Again, check out his YouTube channel in the video description as well as the pinned comments. Thank you guys again for watching. This is 40 the Broadway Saiyan signing out. Mahal everyone.